The first hint of trouble landed on my doorstep one chilly October morning in 2023, delivered by a weary mail carrier who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. It was a registered letter from the Pinewood Estates Homeowners Association, the kind of envelope that screams bad news before you even tear it open. Inside, a single sheet of paper hit me like a punch, a $900 fine for unauthorized tampering with lake water levels. My lake, my dam. My sweat and blood poured into a concrete overflow gate I'd built with my own hands nearly 2 decades ago. They were charging me for managing a storm's runoff on my own property. I'm a retired water systems engineer, 42 years in the game, and I know a few truths. Water flows downhill, pressure doesn't negotiate, and you can't bully gravity. But the Pinewood HOA, led by their new president, Karen Mitchell, seemed dead set on trying. They claimed I'd messed with a control gate on my land, risking erosion and the community's so-called water rights. Their proof? A grainy drone photo with a red circle around a shadow that could have been a tree, a dog, or just a glitch. They even attached a violation notice, conveniently backdated 3 weeks. I've lived in this house in Maple Grove, Oregon, for 25 years, long before Karen and her cronies knew this place existed. My property backs onto a small man-made lake, really just a wide bend in a creek held by an old earthen dam. Back in 2004, after a spring deluge nearly swamped my elderly neighbors, the Wilsons, I built a proper overflow gate, simple, concrete, and city-approved. Think of it like a bathtub drain. When the water gets too high, it spills out safely, no mess, no flood. I did the work myself, every bolt, every pore, because I believe in getting it right. For 19 years, that gate kept the lake steady, protecting my land and the Wilsons' low-lying home without a peep from anyone. This fine wasn't just wrong, it was absurd. I walked out to check the dam, tucked well within my property line. I've got the original survey framed in my study to prove it. The gate was fine, the water calm, moving only under the quiet pull of the earth. Karen, a former property manager who treated bylaws like her personal scepter, hadn't bothered to call, visit, or ask about the dam. She just fired off a threat based on a blurry snapshot. I sat down at my desk, typed a sharp but polite email to the HOA board, disputing the fine. I attached my 2004 city permit, a scan of my property plat, and asked one question. What legal right did they have to control a private system on my land? I hit send and waited. Days passed silence. By Wednesday, my frustration hardened into a cold, focused resolve. This wasn't about the $900. It was about the lie, about someone with a little power inventing a problem to pin on me. I decided to document everything. Every email, every call, every scrap of paper. I set up an old trail camera by my back fence, just in case. What I didn't know was that Karen had already sent someone to snoop on my property without permission, without a warrant, without a clue I'd catch them. That Friday, I checked the camera's memory card. Most clips were just deer and a nosy raccoon. But one video, timestamped 10:17 a.m. the previous Sunday, stopped me cold. My side gate creaked open, and a stranger in a faded cap and jeans slipped through, clutching a clipboard like it made him official. No uniform, no company logo, just a guy sneaking around like he was casing a joint. He made a beeline for my dam, snapping phone pics of the gate, the control box, my measuring stick. Then he headed to my shed, bolt cutters dangling from his hand. He rattled the padlock, testing the door's strength, glancing nervously at my house. He didn't get in, but the intent was clear. They were hunting for something to use against me. He was gone in 6 minutes. I saved that video to 3 hard drives, me first piece of evidence. An hour later, another HOA letter arrived, this one stuffed in my mailbox like junk mail. The fine had jumped to $2,600 for continued noncompliance. They threatened a lien on my home if I didn't pay in 7 days. Attached was a bombshell, a supposed 2009 addendum to my homeowner agreement, giving the HOA control over my dam. At the bottom, my signature, a sloppy forgery of it. The font didn't match. The signature was pixelated, crookedly pasted in. This wasn't a dispute anymore. It was fraud. My hands shook, not with fear, but with the sting of betrayal. Karen wasn't just overreaching, she was breaking the law to win a petty fight. I fired off another email, attaching a still of the trespasser and demanding the name of their contractor. No reply. I drove to the county records office in downtown Maple Grove, a squat building smelling of dust and ink. I spent hours pulling certified copies of my property's blueprints, plat maps, and flood zone charts. The dam, the gate, the control box, all 25 feet inside my property line. The HOA had no more claim to it than they did to my kitchen sink. I called my old friend, Tom Harper, a retired city engineer with a mind sharper than a tack. I laid out the saga, the fines, the trespasser, the forgery. Tom grunted. "You can argue with idiots all day, Mike, and all you'll get is a headache. Let's hit them with math." He came over that afternoon with a ball of twine, chalk, and a GoPro. We ran a flow test on the auxiliary drain, marking its intake with chalk to check water flow. After 20 minutes, the chalk hadn't budged. Tom peered into the pipe and froze. "Mike, this isn't debris. Someone jammed a rubber plug in here on purpose." He pulled out a heavy, 8-inch contractor's plug, the kind used to seal water mains. This was sabotage, designed to choke the drain and raise the lake level, putting the Wilsons' home in a flood's path. We filmed it all: the plug, the pipe, the dangerously high water. This was my second piece of evidence. I called the county permitting office. No permits or work orders existed for my dam. I emailed the HOA again, attaching the trespasser's photo and our sabotage video, demanding their contractor's license. Their lawyer replied with vague nonsense about community assets and an environmental consultant recommending modifications. I shot back, "Name your consultant and their license number." Silence. I filed a Freedom of Information Act request for any HOA correspondence with the city about my property. Running into my neighbor, retired Deputy Sheriff Jack Ramsey, I mentioned the trespasser. Jack's eyes narrowed. "Saw a white pickup from Cascade Property Services parked near Karen's last week," he said. "No landscaping, just loitering." A quick search revealed Cascade's owner, Karen's cousin, Ethan Walsh. The HOA was funneling funds to her unqualified relative to mess with my dam. That Sunday night, a weather alert pinged my phone. A massive storm was rolling in, set to dump inches of rain by 3 a.m. The plug was still in my workshop, but its twin was choking my drain. I suited up in a raincoat and boots, setting up a GoPro and a yardstick to monitor the lake. By midnight, the rain was a roar, the water climbing past the safe 12-inch mark to 15. I sent urgent emails and voicemails to Karen and the HOA's emergency line. The Wilsons' home was at risk. No response. By 2:50 a.m., the water hit 26 inches, lapping at their foundation. I couldn't wait. I called 911. Calmly reporting a public safety hazard to the fire marshal. Within 20 minutes, Captain Sarah Brooks and her crew arrived. I showed them the submerged drain, the rising water, the Wilsons' flooded yard. They called in a city public works team, who waded in and yanked the plug free. The lake surged into the pipe, the pressure easing instantly. I filmed it all, and Captain Brooks handed me an incident report citing Cascade Property Services for the hazardous obstruction. The HOA meeting was a week later in the Pinewood Community Center, usually a sleepy affair. Not this time. The room buzzed with neighbors, word of the near flood spreading like wildfire. I walked in with a 3-inch binder. Every email, photo, video, and document, plus the Wilsons' son, Greg, and 2 other neighbors. Karen sat at the board table, her smile brittle. She tried to dodge public comment with an executive session, but I quoted the bylaws, forcing her hand. At the podium, I laid out the truth like a blueprint. I showed my 2004 permit, explained the dam's simple physics, and displayed Ethan's trespassing photo, bolt cutters in hand. I projected the forged addendum next to the real one, the fraud glaringly obvious. Greg stood, voice cracking. "My parents are 87 and 84. Mike saved their home." I played the GoPro footage of the storm, the rising water, the ticking clock. The room held its breath. Karen's lawyer sputtered objections, but Jack's voice boomed. "Let him finish." I closed with the plat map, my dam clearly on my land. "This wasn't about water," I said, staring at Karen. "It was about power. You tampered with my dam." The crowd erupted anger, relief, applause. But Karen wasn't done. Days later, my new security camera caught Ethan and another man at my dam, bolt cutters ready to wreck it. I didn't shout or call the cops. I grabbed a wrench, walked to the dam, and loosened the main gate's steel blocks. With a groan, the gate dropped 14 inches, unleashing a torrent that turned the creek into a roaring river. Ethan and his buddy froze, then fled. The lake dropped to its natural level, the banks stabilized, and wildlife returned. A city inspector confirmed my setup was compliant, issuing a certificate. The HOA's cease and desist was laughed off by my lawyer, citing my evidence. Neighbors rallied, circulating a petition that ousted Karen and her board. She resigned, citing personal reasons, and sold her house. The new board erased my fines, apologized, and reimbursed my $2,600 legal fees. I donated it to the fire department, a quiet victory. Now my shed's a fortress, HD cameras, motion lights, a steel padlock. The dam hums along, its water steady, a reminder that truth, like water, finds its way. Karen's gone, but I see her at the store, our nods heavy with an unspoken story. At night, I walk to the dam, listening to the creek's gentle roar, knowing I didn't need to scream, just let the water speak. So where do you stand? Was I right to drop the gate, or did I go too far? Should HOAs have this much power, or are they just bullies with clipboards? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories where truth takes on tyrants. What would you have done?